Hello and welcome to my channel. In this video, I'm going to show you how I made some spring themed decor, so let's get started. For the first project, I'm starting with a broken tea kettle. I took off the bottom so I could remove the plastic lever and then I reassembled it. Next, I used a few small pieces of aluminum foil to fill in the cavity where the lever was. I then used air dry clay and the trimmings mold to add a decorative element to the bottom and also to cover up the hole from the lever. Next, I used the air dry clay to cover the holes in a bird salt shaker and then used D6000 and glued the bird to the spout. Once the glue and clay were dry, I gave it a coat of paint. I kept going back and forth on whether or not to paint the entire thing or just the bottom, but then I just decided that I really didn't like it being gray. After the paint was dry, I added a small rub-on transfer to the front. To finish it, I added antiquing wax over the entire thing. This is just a personal preference, and I'm making this for my own house. You do whatever color and finish you want. For the next project, I'm starting with this egg-shaped cloche. My daughter bought it for me from the Target dollar spot a few years ago, and I'm surprised it didn't get broken in my craft stash. I started by painting the base a light green color. Since the base of this cloche is just made out of MDF, I glued some trim around the edges. Next, I went through my stash of miniatures and found this flower pot that came from a previous thrifted item and gave it a coat of paint. I then took a small twig and glued some leaves and flowers to it. Next, I glued all the pieces to the wood round, making sure that they would still fit under the cloche. I then glued small pieces of moss to hide the styrofoam and to fill in some of the empty spaces. For the last project, I'm starting with this bunny pattern. I traced the pattern piece onto a piece of scrap muslin fabric. This bunny pattern didn't have arms, so I made a skinny log shape pattern and traced that out as well. Next, I sewed the arm pieces together and then turned them both right side out. I then pinned them inside the body, making sure that they were lined up at the shoulder and then stitched around the entire body. I also added boxed corners to the bottom of the bunny so it would stand easier. I then made a slit across the belly and turned it right side out. Since I didn't stuff the arms with anything, I just tied a knot at the bottom of each arm. I forgot to hit record when I stuffed it, but my first step was to add a piece of bent wire to each ear, and then I stuffed the head and body. Once the body was filled, I stitched the opening closed and then added hot glue and a small scrap of fabric. Next, I stitched on a piece of scrap fabric to make the pocket and to cover the stitched opening. I then used embroidery floss to stitch the face. To make the whiskers, I tied a knot in the center of the thread and then pulled it through so that the knot would be caught behind the nose, and then trimmed the threads. Next, I added blush to the cheeks and ears. I then stamped the word spring to a scrap of fabric. This will be glued to the front of his pocket. Next, I took a paper mache box and gave it a coat of paint. When that was dry, I decoupaged a label to the front. I don't know where I got this label from. I just found it in my stash. I got this little wicker basket from Hobby Lobby last year, and I gave it some antiquing wax to grunge it up. I also used antiquing wax on these bottle brush carrots from Dollar Tree. When the paint was dry on the box, I also gave that a coat of antiquing wax. Next, I found an image of a carrot seed packet on Google and printed that out to make a miniature seed package. I then added some ribbon for a scarf and the seed packet to the pocket. I also glued a carrot to one arm. Next, I glued all the pieces to the box top. I added a small piece of styrofoam behind the bunny and Spanish moss to cover it. To finish it, I added all the greenery pieces. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed these projects, and I'll see you in the next video.